Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again, folks. Again, I'm Bruce Broussard. Here I am. I am the chief negotiator, whatever it is. But anyway, welcome aboard. As you know, I'm running for office. I'm running for County Commissioner, District Number 2, here in the Portland metropolitan area. District 2 is probably the core area where most of the issues that are happening here within this particular area. We're talking about gang members. We're talking about school problems, graduation issues. We're talking about all kinds of things. And I've been in this area for a little over 40 years, actually throughout the state of Oregon for that matter. But the fact of the matter is that that's what the issues are. District 2 pretty well covers that particular area. So to give you an example of that, back in 1986, when I owned the Portland Observer newspaper, I recognized the fact that there was no address to this issue of the black community. And come to find out is that when you said Northeast Portland, it was all over the place. So what I did was that I was a member of the Republican Party at that point in time, and we had some. So I lobbied down at the state, at the legislature, and we re-gerrymandered the area and came up with one district. It was called District Number 18, where a number of the residents happened to have been black. And the bottom line is that it would possibly give them more of an opportunity to get elected the old-fashioned way. And so as a result of that, we got District Number 18. And that was probably the first time that, in many ways, that blacks were elected. Very few. In fact, the first person that was elected, and I was living in the district at the time, happened to be a white guy. A white guy. He was a neighbor of mine, because we couldn't get it, or I couldn't get them organized to get the folks together to agree, if you will, to identify someone that could truly represent the district. And I worked hard for that, because otherwise I wouldn't allow anybody if they didn't have the right resume. That was the deal. So the bottom line is that, but at the end of that, when you hear names like Margaret Carter, when you hear names like Lou Frederick, when you hear names about Avell Gordley and folks like that, they would never have had the opportunity to have been elected to office had it not been for the efforts of the Portland Observer newspaper, and I was the president and owner, my wife and I. And that's what's happening. Now today, we got things like called gentrification and all kinds of weird different deals. The bottom line, folks, in all due respect, they didn't quote, and that was a concern about getting the right responsible people, i.e. with the right resume, to be a part of that process. And as a result of that, in all due respect, hey, guess what? Now we got gentrification. We got all kinds of issues along that particular line. Well, anyway, that just gives you a little bit more. And the reason why I'm bringing that subject up is that my thought was that we'd be all inclusive by then, and if you ran for office, and if you had the right resume, whether you're white, black, green, red, or yellow, you understood what the issues were for that particular area. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But hey, guess what? It's back to the table, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running. I want to educate you about what happened and where we are today. We can't go back to the old times, if you will. We got to make sure that we got a job to do, and that's why I'm running. And as far as I'm concerned, I will be elected, and we're going to probably go back and revisit, if you will, that whole idea of what do we do about assimilation, which is a very key issue. Now, one of those areas is the issue of another big issue that we're having within the state, within the United States for that matter, is the whole issue of sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. In fact, Oregon was one of the first ones, if you will, one of the oldest states in the Union that initiated this to begin with. It's kind of interesting. They elected a Mexican American to be representative, and all of a sudden there he was. His effort was at that point in time, it could have been talked to. It was a sanctuary city, and it had its own definition. But the fact of the matter is, for years it was just there. It was just there, and then all of a sudden we got into some major issues. I mean, it's a national issue right now. As far as what do, we had issues with reference to employment. We had issues with our farmers. A lot of our farmers were somewhat responsible because we did have a system at one point in time. We had a system where, in all due respect, my point is that we're a neighboring nation, if you will, called Mexico. They would come and during the summers and whatever, and pick up the crop and go back. Everybody was okay, but then all of a sudden the greed came in. All of a sudden we were kind of like saying, okay, fine, gee whiz, I think it's like anything, follow the money. And that's all I'm trying to say. Just follow the money. We were just as responsible, if not more responsible. And all We created the issue. Now we're trying to figure out, we got it political. We got political with that issue. And all of a sudden, we made that another entity with reference to our election process. And now all of a sudden, we got these folks coming in. I think it was the first time around. The first time around, we gave them citizenship, and then just a blanket kind of a deal. And I thought that was going to be, the politicians basically said, okay, fine, this is the first time, that's it. And then all of a sudden we came up with a second round. And I'll be right up front with you, it was a Republican Party. It was our party was the one, and I think that was under Reagan and Bush.
Yeah.
And Reagan and Bush.
86.
It was 86, and they did it twice. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Those folks just kept coming in. They had the example. They said, all we have to do is just keep coming in. And we're just going on and we don't have to worry about the citizenship. We're just going on and just be American citizens, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm sharing this with you because, and even I'm giving it to you in a short, kind of a short explanation, if you will, definition of what had happened. But it's a concern today. It's a major concern. Now, we've got all sorts of estimates, like 10,000, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million people. So you actually say, well, wait a minute, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? So I put that up front because I've got some folks sitting here with me that, because we're right in the midst of elections right now, we got to try to solve that problem. I got one person who's running for governor. You've seen Bruce Cuff here before. Bruce is I got him here purposely because, in all due respect, he's a blue collar kind of guy. He's out there knocking on those doors and meeting people. He's meeting people. He's an Oregonian. And he's a salesperson in his own rights, but the fact of the matter is he's talking to people, and we're going to get some feedback in terms of what he's hearing about on this issue of Sanctuary City. And then we've got another person who represents Oregon for Immigration Reform, which is a good brand, if you will, to deal with that particular issue, because that's what it is. That's what it's all about. And sometimes we have a difficulty trying to talk to that issue. And I think that's bad. It's not good. I mean, here we are stuck right here now today, and we've got two criminal justice systems. We got one that the police can't touch, and the other guy that they can touch. And I'm talking about now this particular district that I'm talking to right now. I'm talking about the fact that we were trying to reform this whole issue of gang problems. And then we were kind of getting ahead and this, that, and the other. And then now we've got another gang problem, but you can't touch that gang. You know, I'm talking about the illegal folks who happen to be young people. And they are young people, but guess what? Nothing else to do. And they're sort of they're here illegal. They don't understand the rules and the regulations that we have to live under. Somebody just gave it a blanket deal. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So there's two sides to this whole issue of immigration reform in terms of how does it represent us? We can't even talk to the crime issues in that area. We can't even talk about it. So we just forget about it, and it's causing all kinds of problems. In the district that we're representing, senior citizens can't even come out their home. The safety, just public safety for that matter. I mean, we got some problems, serious problems. We're seeing it on TV day and night. Politicians are fighting about the whole deal. So how do we resolve this issue? So I've got a person here they've got the right brand, Oregon for Immigration Reform, and we're going to get some good background and give it sort of an up-to-date, and we're going to educate you about and share with you what they have found and why we're having this petition to rid ourselves of this so-called sanctuary state that we initiated way back when. Well, right now it's not productive for us. We're bringing back some of the old issues of race. We're bringing that back just because of these kinds of deals, the old divide deal. I mean, we're talking about black and brown, all kinds of weird things. But I think in Oregon, we have an opportunity maybe to do something better, if you will, and set an example for the rest of this country. Because we did the same thing right up front, right here on the licensing situation. This same group of folks basically came right here at this table, and we talked and educated you about the impact that the licensing program of illegals was going to have on i.e. Oregonians. And guess what? It was repealed. And in all due respect, that's exactly what we're going to have to do with this other piece. And it's not, like I said, it's not about the individuals. The fact of the matter is, we got to think about ourselves, about our issues and that. And so we need to correct that. So I've got both of these people. I've said enough now, and why don't we get into the discussion? I think the first discussion will be, the person that will talk to us will be Lyneil Vandermolen, right?
Yes.
And she's with that group. And Lyneil, we want you to give us an update, kind of define what you're doing as far as Oregon for immigration reform, and just bring back a little update about the licensing thing.
Sure, okay.
Okay, the whole works.
We're doing the same thing that we did in 2014.
Okay.
When it actually started in 2013 when the legislature brought back driver's cards for illegal aliens.
Right. Okay.
And the day after they did that, and it was a bipartisan, no, it was a single party vote. Every single Democrat in the legislature voted to give driver's licenses to illegal aliens, and about 11 Republicans, unfortunately. So it passed by a huge margin. The next day, we applied for a referendum to undo it, because we realized how dangerous it is when you allow criminal aliens to transport their drugs all over the state without fear of being searched, because if they've all got driver's licenses, there's less reason for any cop who's pulled them over for what reason to check their cars. So basically it was a business card for illegal aliens. It also allowed illegal aliens to compete unfairly against our own entry-level citizens who need jobs. And about 2013 the employment rate was not so great in this country. So we went right to work doing all our paperwork and getting our title. That was a little hurdle we had to overcome. And then we started distributing our initiative petition signature sheets all over the state. And we enjoyed the fact that it was the season where there were a lot of county fairs going on. And so we had booths at the state fair and at county fairs. And in just 4 months, we were able to get enough signatures to get it on the ballot, so that it let the voter decide whether they want.
Within 4 months.
Within 4 months, that was like a miracle. Because usually you get about a year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm very familiar with that.
But fortunately, we were able to go to all these different booths in the county fairs, and we had a lot of volunteers on the street and going to various clubs and just going to DMVs and standing outside. We had people canvassing the state, and they were volunteers. And so once it got on the ballot, it overturned the driver's cards for illegal aliens by a margin of 66 to 33.
Right. Wow.
Which was amazing. I mean, it was 2/3 of all Oregonians from all parties said no more. Now, our opposition tried to make it look like a safety issue. Illegal aliens are going to drive anyway, so here's how you at least make it safe by forcing them to get insurance. But we found out that wasn't really true, because illegal aliens usually would get a driver's license and then cancel their insurance policy because it was too expensive. So they were driving around without insurance anyway. We might as well stop the cards. So at least now they can be held responsible for breaking the law instead of getting special permits to break the law.
Even though it's sanctuary still, though.
Yeah, it brings us up to our next issue, the sanctuary state. It has morphed over time. It started in 1987 as an anti-profiling bill, which is fine. But then later on, it morphed to you couldn't do immigration sweeps. So now it's gone to an extreme. I mean, you cannot protect illegal alien felons and violent criminals any more than you can in Oregon. They will literally hide them from detention or apprehension by the feds. They will literally let them out the back door of the courthouse, which has happened here in Multnomah County.
Right, that's true.
Actually held them hidden from the feds who are waiting at the front door of the courthouse. And I can't even understand the reason for it, because you are allowing violent felons back on the street. And it just shows you that there's this two-tiered system of justice here. You have the one that protects illegal alien criminals, and then the one that we all have to abide by and live with if we get sentenced.
Well, the point I was to make on that end, as I'm walking around, at Camden, and Bruce will be talking about this also too, as I talk to some of the seniors who are here, and all due respect, don't have the papers, right? You got me? Senior citizen aspect, that how inhumane that is, if you will. You got my point? I mean, I'm talking as far as the people are concerned. My point is that they have come over, and we've allowed that to happen. You got me? And this criminal element is sitting here with them, and they're just as afraid, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, aspect of it. So as opposed to being able to resolve that issue, this issue over here, got me, and get that responsibility back to that particular nation, they're stuck.
the older people stuck.
It's just...
Yeah, they are. And there was nothing about our policy in Ophir to uproot people who've been here for decades.
Right.
But why don't we get it turned off?
Yes.
Because we keep having this stampede
Exactly.
that we have to
Exactly.
subsidize
Exactly.
and live with the effects of.
Exactly.
In terms of
Exactly.
crime, ID theft,
Yes.
Social Security fraud,
Yes.
indigent attorney fees, medical care, free education, and ESL education is 1.5 times as much as just English education.
Well, that's another major problem. English as a second language.
Yeah, so it's very
ridiculous.
expensive, and we keep being expected to just pay the cost. And to me, the cost in crime is way too high.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's right.
And we've got some amazing cases that have happened here in Portland. And one was that criminal alien who had been deported about 21 times. He was released without contacting the feds, of course, and he went right out and he raped one woman and he beat and tried to kidnap another. So now he's finally caught again. But that's only because he committed another crime and the police were able to catch him. I'm thinking that our average American citizens are the ones who are being victimized by this, so why are we allowing it to keep happening?
I might add too at this point in time, folks, that I've invited someone who happens to be running for the same position that I'm running for, Maria Garcia, and I've invited her. I said, look, I want you to look at the show. I want you to come on over and share with the audience, if you will, as to how she feels about the conversation we're having, because that's what we have to do. We have to communicate.
Yeah.
You got me? Okay, good. So, on that particular note, why don't we just kind of go back and forth now? I think we've got enough now at this point in time. Bruce, you're out there you're out there all over the state. I know you are, and you're knocking on the doors and this, that, and the other. What kind of response are you getting around the state with reference to this particular issue?
Well, when I was in Beaverton knocking on doors, I ran into a deputy sheriff from Washington County. He just happened to be home that day, and we got to talking about sanctuary status. And when you said that it's morphed into something that's not intended to be what it's supposed to be, basically Kate Brown, with her executive order right after Donald Trump got elected, there's one dated February 2017 where she basically says, no state money is going to be expended to notify immigration. When you're turning loose a felon or whatnot, you cannot talk to the immigration people. So I just asked the deputy sheriff, I said, how is this affecting you? And he said, well, he just gave me an example. He said, in Clackamas County, they just had a case where they had to at least release this felon, and he was picked up by immigration. Now, whether somebody called the police or not, he was picked up after he was released. So immediately, Clackamas County Sheriff's Department was sued. So he just was telling me about this, and he said, Bruce, we don't have money to pay for these kind of lawsuits. When it comes to public safety, we're trying to protect the public, and so we're not calling. We don't have the revenue to protect ourselves from these kind of lawsuits. So, they say we can't call, we're not calling. So it's really put a damper. You're actually releasing people back onto the street that are felons that you can't hold, but you can't call immigration to actually let them know you're doing that when they're here illegally, but you can't do anything. That is, and just quite frankly, the law enforcement people, they want this thing overturned. They want to be able to, when you got somebody that's a hazard to society, that's violent, you need to be able to talk to the federal folks that can actually remove him from Oregon.
Well, tell me this, and like I said, you're knocking on doors. In fact, you just jumped right in there. When you think about it, both the feds, and let's say the sheriff, and then let's say the local police, they're all law enforcement officers. They're all law enforcement. My point is that, what I'm saying? They've got guidelines to deal with. How can you mix something in that threesome that counters the others?
Well, it's completely irrational.
I don't understand.
Back when Obama was president, Arizona was trying to enforce federal immigration law in its own state,
right?
And the feds sued them sued the state for
Pretty amazing.
enforcing federal immigration law.
Pretty amazing.
It's so backwards. There's no real explaining it. Other than that, I think liberal politicians are looking forward to turning all illegal aliens into voters at some point.
Yeah,
And so they don't want to waste
it's
a
gotten
single
political.
one.
It's definitely gotten political.
They don't want to waste any.
But it is a public safety issue because the original law was designed, and it had exceptions in it to actually say, you know, if you got somebody here that's got a federal warrant, you know, you catch somebody that's got a federal warrant, or you're going to turn loose a felon, it allowed you to call. But that executive order that Governor Brown signed in response to the Trump administration getting elected, wrong approach. I mean, it's costing Oregons their safety, you know, and you know, immigration is a federal issue. The way I explain it in our campaign is, you know, for the state of Oregon to state that we are a sanctuary state, it's unconstitutional. We've already given the right to regulate immigration to the federal government as a state. That's one of the things that we've delegated to the federal government. So for us to step in there and say, you know what, that's unlawful, that's unconstitutional. So, you know, we need to get this overturned. And
so, Bruce, again, what are the people saying to you when you knock on the door and you're asking and just share with them, what do you feel about this thing? What impact does this have on your lifestyle?
I've been carrying the petition with me, you know, and letting people know about it, and they sign it.
They sign
it because it's a public safety issue to them. You know, it really is. So, and I think that's the big thing is the law itself, like Lyneil was saying, it was designed for racial profiling, but with this governor and the way that executive order was written, it is morphed into something that is nowhere near what that original law was done. So it needs to be overturned, and most people agree with that.
And the governor herself says, well, this is a safety issue that we're addressing because illegal aliens who are suffering from abuse by a violent partner or family member or are being bullied by a felon in their neighborhood will be more likely to step forward if they know that they won't be themselves arrested for being here illegally. There's just no evidence that happens.
No.
Because for one thing, why would you snitch on someone who's going to be back in your neighborhood with a grudge in no time, a grudge against you? Because they're not being removed now. He's going to be back. So why would you turn them over? Also, the federal government does have several programs to help a person become legalized if they help solve a crime against an illegal alien. So they're already, you know,
in the process of trying to do something.
Well, they could be if
they had some cooperation.
Well, now there's no incentive.
Well, you know, even from that particular situation, I remember when that whole issue of profiling came out, the word profiling came out, and then we started, you know, basically the idea they had to keep records and things of that nature. But through those years, you know what I mean, we were making progress. It's like anything else, you know, we got law enforcement. Then all of a sudden you get to the point where, okay, fine, look like we've got somewhere now, you got me? And then here in the city of Portland, for that matter, they had even gotten to the point where they said, okay, fine, they were going to do away with records. You're putting gang members on records, you know, on their file and whatever, that to impact kids. That would impact them on their jobs and things of that nature. And they got to a point, then all of a sudden, then bang, it's come back because of this other issue.
So they're not on record.
So now there's the police are very upset about it naturally because they're saying, hey, look here, that's part of my job. I mean, my point is that they're talking. You see what I'm saying? Because in that business, in law enforcement, it's community policing. You know, once they get assigned to an area, you're supposed to know what's going on in those areas, and they'll write notes down and this, that, and the other, and keep it. They'll put a picture on it, just keep keep their own personal files. And I've known a guy that was on Portland Police for that matter. His name is Don DuPay. He's retired now. He's out of the deal. But the fact of the matter is, when they came up with this issue, he just kind of like said, hey, look here, that's what we had to do. You know, it was community policing. We knew what was going on in our area. And so, but my point is that we're talking, but now all of a sudden we're right back to the same situation. And yet, here we go. We bring the big race card back to the table. You get my point? And then all because of that deal. But now the other entities, all due respect, the Mexicans, if you will, or if not that, the brown side of the deal, guess what? They're safe. They don't have to worry about that part.
Yeah, and so you're back to the two-tiered system of justice
you see
again.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're going back to an issue that we're trying to resolve, if you will, in our country, this race issue thing between black and white. And that's the thing that bugs me quite a bit, because that's what I hear, too, on the street.
And I've heard presentations from immigration people that just say, you know what, we don't have the resources to just go after anybody that's here illegally, but we do go after the ones that are here illegally that have broken the law. We need to be focused on those, and that's what this law does. It focuses. It's going to focus back on where you can call. You can't. You know, when you're turning somebody loose and they're a felon, you need to be able to call the immigration and say, I can't hold this guy. I need to let you guys know about it, because we need him removed because he's dangerous. See, if we can't get back there, that's what's happening. We can't do that now, and that's a public safety issue. And you talk to the immigration folks, I mean, they're not going after somebody just because they're here illegally, but if they do break the law, yeah, they need to be able to go after them, and we can't do that in Oregon, and that's wrong.
Because of the wording in that law.
Absolutely.
It's Section 1. It says you can't be removed simply from being here illegally. You have to have committed a crime on top of that. However, once they've served a jail sentence for some sort of crime, it's almost as if they're considered absolved. So now when you turn them loose, they're just an illegal alien again. There's no crime behind them because they paid for it by being in jail for a while. So now you can't consider them a felon in the same way, unless, of course, there's a federal arrest warrant.
Well, that's the whole rationale that I was sharing about the black situation. See what I'm saying? My point is that when they commit something, if you will, they're not just released now. See, now it's going back to the old way again. So just added on to the whole peace aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it impacts that. Then the other thing, in all due respect, it impacts the jobs. Because a lot of those we have programs, if you will, about getting them back into society. You know, after they've gone to the institution and done that time, and then they're out trying to get a job. The PO office is saying, okay, fine, you got to get a job, and this, that, and the other. All of a sudden, that's gone, because those so-called opportunities for employers to hire these folks, all of a sudden, guess what they're doing? They're hiring the illegals.
Yeah.
And we got that problem too. They're hiring illegal, because now it's, you know, here we go again about the race piece. We're bringing that back to a certain degree, because I was in construction for a number of years, and that was an issue. I was always saying, you know, get these people working. The man's got to eat.
Yeah. You go to most construction sites now, it's all Spanish.
That's right.
Where are the American workers
who
wanted this job?
And then E-Verify is a joke.
Yeah, well, we don't even use it here.
I mean, it's a joke. And I'm saying, wait a minute, you got to be kidding me. But then my point is that, you know, the politics is that they're trying to put us in the same group, saying, well, you guys are all together. I'm tired of being a minority. I just want to be an Oregonian.
Yeah, there you go.
I spent time in the Marine Corps. I was in NOM. I'm disabled. I mean, a whole bunch of things. My point is that, so hey, look, I'm tired of being the minority aspect of it. And I'll say this to you very up front. You see, I'm wearing my cover. I basically say I'm a Vietnam vet aspect of it. I got my ribbons, so to speak. Bruce is basically doing the same thing. I've served. And I'll be right up front with you. I do this sometimes purposely, because a lot of times I'm out there reaching out to vets to get their benefits and this, that, and the other. If I didn't have that uniform, if I didn't have this kind of gear on, all of a sudden it's suspect, the black and the white thing.
Yeah.
I have to talk a little bit more. Well, I'm cool. I just go straight through. But a lot of the other folks, they take it in a different way, and then we get that divide thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But so it's an issue. So it is an issue within the black community, with black Americans, big time.
Well, they should be concerned that there are so many illegal aliens, basically marginalizing them in the employment aspect.
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
I remember a few years ago there was a raid in a Portland fruit company, and they were all illegal aliens, and yet the Portland City Council voted to give them $20,000 to help them find some new place to go.
Oh yeah.
Well, they shouldn't have been in that fruit company working in the first place. That should have been a great entry-level job for our own citizens, of whatever race.
But I might add though to that. See, the businessman hadn't gone to jail yet too. See, that's the other thing.
And that's going to be the key.
I'm just saying we need to. I mean, sure they rely on the E-Verify, but I know that's a scam. You know what I mean? That's easy to do. We can do something. What about Social Security numbers or something? Something that shows an American what we have to carry, if you will. when we're trying to legitimatize our peace aspect of it. But let me give you an example on that piece here locally. Portland, Oregon. Portland Public Schools. Portland Public Schools had hired many folks in the area, a number of which happened to have been African Americans. They're all union card members paying dues. Okay, they fired them. They let them go. To basically raise more money, if you will. They let them go, and then the same union that they were paying to, the same union was recruiting illegals.
Yeah, I believe that.
Recruiting illegals to take the jobs.
Yeah,
Because they can pay them less.
You know what I'm saying? Yes.
Yeah.
But during the same time, and I fought right here. It took me 2 years to get their jobs back.
Yeah.
2 years, several of which died. African Americans, blacks.
Yeah.
Either one. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, now, what do you say about that? And I'm not playing politics with this thing. That's serious stuff.
Yeah.
That's a fact. That's happening right here.
Well, unions used to be very much protective of American jobs,
Yes.
but when unions started kind of going out of favor in some places and getting whittled out, all except for the SEIU, which is very popular, they started thinking, where are we going to increase our employment base in? And they decided it's going to be with illegal aliens. And so they want those dues.
Illegal in politics.
They call it empowering immigrants, but they're not immigrants. They're trespassers. But they represent union dues, and so now they're favoring the illegals as employees.
Well, look, we're going to take a short break. This is a very interesting discussion, so we'll get right back to it because it's very important. Because the people here need time. They need to understand what we're talking about. Very important. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
Welcome back, folks. Again, I'm Bruce Broussard, your host here, Oregon Voters Digest. We're talking about the whole issue of immigration reform, platform aspect of it. We're talking about today the sanctuary city, sanctuary state. We're talking about Oregon at this point in time, and it's an issue. But we spent the first 30 minutes talking to that, and at the same time, I want to add to the fact that I have invited, if you will, I've invited some individuals who feel very strongly about the fact that we should maintain the whole issue of sanctuary city, and just so happened the young lady that happens to be running for the county too, so it's going to impact this district number 2, and I will give her an opportunity to share her thoughts. Hopefully she's watching this show, and I'm suggesting if there are Mexican Americans out there, Mexicans that are looking at this show, I'll welcome you. Because in all due respect, you should be the point person about this issue. I'm sure that there are Mexican Americans out here that have something to say about the whole issue of sanctuary city, but I can't find them for some strange reason. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe I can find. I've been even elected officials. I'm looking for them. But my point is that we need to solve the problem, folks. We need to solve the problem, and this is the format that I tend to use to educate you. It's not basically taking a side or whatever. I'm looking at the bottom line. I know we have to live on the rules and regs and this, that, and the other. So it's very important. So that's what we're doing today. I might mention too that we failed to mention the fact that giving respect and honor to First Lady, if you will, First Lady Bush, who just recently passed away. I call her the Iron Lady. She was a very interesting woman. I had an opportunity to meet her when I went back in one of the conventions. And,
when was that?
Well, I'm from Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay.
See, I was from Houston, Texas, and that's where the Bushes grew up. The young guys, they were. That's why they're so familiar with folks, if you will. And so anyways, it was just something to know of her and how she was. She was a mom. I mean, she was really a mom. She made sure those kids got educated. She made sure that they were diverse, if you will. And in Houston is a very diverse area. And they went back. I know exactly where they live. in many ways, because I was from that area, so to speak. So we want to say, hey, she was quite a lady, and rest in peace. And I see the George is still available. We're kind of in the same age bracket, so to speak. And he's quite a guy, and then naturally her sons are basically the same.
Yeah.
You know, and so but anyway. We just want to make sure that we respect the fact that she spent some time there with the outhouse, with the White House, and with her husband, and boy, that was a very neat person. So hey, anything you want to say? Anybody want to comment? Anybody else want to comment about President Mrs. Bush?
She was always a lady that was very polite and backed her husband up.
Yeah, very much so. And the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was down to earth.
Oh yeah, very much so. And that's exactly what we're talking here today. That's exactly what this show is all about. We're not sophisticated. We're talking to the people, because it is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we got to take it back.
Amen.
And that's where we are right now. We started out talking about cleaning the swamp, right? And you couldn't find anybody that want to run for office. And then a guy comes up and he says, okay, and his name is Trump, and all of a sudden, bang, it's like he's a strange, he's from New York. If that's the most diversified city in the world.
But he was a political outsider, and I think that's what made him so popular with just the rank and file of American citizens, because he was not a swamp creature.
No,
way outside of it.
But he had the kind of money to buy the politician any day of the week. I mean, why would someone making that kind of being at that point and then say, why can't you just do the same thing that you were doing? He just said, no, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And it took someone to do that. In fact, I'm still looking for the other side to come up with someone that was willing to run.
Yeah.
I can't find anybody. He's the only guy that I know willing to take those hits.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got a job to do. But here, let's get back to our sanctuary city, sanctuary state here in the state of Oregon. I mean, this is monumental. We got the state of California on one side.
Oh,
we
they're
got the
following
state
suit.
of Washington on the other side, and we got Oregon right here, and we got Portland, Oregon, where I'm running for district number 2, my folks. And right up front, it's an issue. I'm running on as part of one of the things I want to do. I want to resolve this issue. I want to get people working again. We got a lot of these, in all due respect, we got a lot of young blacks that are going into the criminal justice system, and they need jobs. And I want to make sure that we get those jobs for all Americans, for that matter. And it's a tough time. We got a thing now called it's called what I'm thinking about what word about gentrification. That's all part and parcel of this process aspect of it. And I'm here for change. That's where I'm at. I want to get back to the business. And thanks for being here, Bruce. It's a pleasure being with you today, and you also too, Lyneil, the Oregon for Immigration Reform. Okay, let's continue where we were. You had some other points you were making.
Well, you just brought up a really good point a moment ago, and that was the effect of illegal immigration on other legal immigrants.
Yes.
And what I notice is sometimes when I've got a table set up and I'm gathering signatures, Hispanic Americans will come up to me, and they're legal. I mean, they've been nationalized.
Right.
And they want to sign my petition, or sometimes they even want to take them home and get their friends to do it for several reasons. They said they're stealing our jobs, they're suppressing our wages, and we're starting to get more and more criminal aliens in our neighborhood, and there's nothing we can do about it because they won't deport them. In fact, I met one man who had moved his entire family from Oregon to Bend because he did not like the amount of criminal aliens that were stacking up in his neighborhood because they're being protected. Now, this makes no sense to me at all.
But what about, but where are these folks? Well, are they carrying the petitions? Are they knocking on doors? I mean, where are the Mexican Americans who are legit? Like me, I'm a black American.
We have some in Ophir, actually. We have immigrants in Ophir, sometimes even as board members. But I don't think most people are aware of that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when thinking about Mexico, you know, they're a Catholic kind of a nation. I mean, very family oriented, very, very family oriented. And in all due respect, you know, many of the so-called, quote, illegals, well, in one way or the other, were associated with the folks who are already here. The ones who got that blanket citizenship, those two different groups, they just said, come on over. So all you have to do, the Mexican consulate was constantly saying, don't worry about it. This is what you say, this is what you don't say.
Well, it's not really a racial issue. It's just a matter that these folks are here illegally. I don't care what country they're from. I mean, if they're here illegally, you know, we shouldn't be protecting them if they've broken the law. I don't care what color they are. If we're turning them loose, they need to be able to call immigration and say, hey, you know what? I have to turn this this felon loose, and I need you, you know, I mean, they're here illegally. I know they're here illegally. They've broken the law. Come pick these guys up, you know. And so to me, it's not, you know, I mean, I was raised in the Brooks area, went to Jervis High School, you know. I went to school with a lot of Hispanic Americans, a lot of guys, you know, I mean, half, you know, probably a third to a half of the school at Jervis was Hispanic. But, you know, so I don't really think of things in terms of race, you know, especially with this issue. It's more in terms of criminal element. That, I mean, it's just common sense that, are you gonna, I don't care what color they are, if they're illegal aliens and they're here committing felonies, crimes, and you cannot call immigration before you turn them loose. I mean, that is just a safety issue.
You know, another thing I want to make mention too, also too, that we're not just talking about Mexicans, if you will.
Right.
We're talking about anybody that comes across that border. It's just so convenient, if you will. We border Mexico.
Well,
but
I
a
think
lot of other folks come through Mexico and come through here illegally.
Yeah, they're called OTMs by the Border Patrol. It means other than Mexican.
Other than Mexican.
Sometimes they're North Koreans.
But they still go through Mexico to
get here.
Because our border's porous.
That's
why.
There's 4 strands of barbed wire in some places.
But what's so interesting, you can't do this in Mexico.
Yeah.
They don't have no, if you were illegal white, you'd be gone. Now, the only way you're legit, you got to show them you can make some money, or you're bringing money with you.
Yeah.
I was once in Oaxaca, Mexico, with a medical missionary group.
Yes.
And it was down on the southern border of Mexico.
Yes.
And as we were driving around in the afternoon, we'd see Jeeps coming back from the border with their border patrols, with their machine guns pointed up in the air, because they use firepower to keep people out.
Oh, yeah.
And yet they basically claim that we're racist or xenophobe if we're trying to keep illegal aliens out of our country. So again, we've got an international two-tiered system.
Well, it's kind of a caste system. I'll be right front. When we think about Mexico, then there's no such thing as 3 different areas. You know, it's just a caste. You have the rich or poor.
Yeah.
And then in that political process is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
They pretty well control that area. So consequently, a lot of times if they want to do this, they let the poor people, well, go over here. You can do over here. We don't have to worry about that part.
Well, they remit so much money from the United States back to Mexico.
Oh, yes.
That it's a real boon to their country, and they've been using us as an economic safety valve. For decades.
Well, you know, that's the other thing I was thinking about. There's ways of cutting that thing off real quick. Like when you can, if you knock off Western Union right off the bat, that causes a bunch of problems.
At a big fee.
Well, and really, I mean, that's why, you know, when we had the programs where they could come up here and work and then go back.
Right, that was a good program.
You know, I mean, because we knew, you know, farmers need workers.
Yeah.
So
and it's seasonal.
Yeah, and it's seasonal, and there's nothing wrong with them sending money back to their families.
Right.
But when they come and they stay beyond their visa, and then our government takes and shows them how to sign up on welfare and health care on our system, and they're here illegally, I mean, that's just a mistake. I mean,
well, where did it start? I mean, because we constantly say government all the time as if these are not Americans that are sitting in those seats. I mean, people. You know, they represent us. We elect them, just like we're getting ready to elect you. So we're going to expect a lot from you.
Yes.
I think they've been compromised.
Been compromised? Well, he won't be compromised, because I'm looking right at him. He's going to come back to this show and do some other things.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just kind of like saying on a side note aspect of it. But it's an issue. For some strange reason, many of us have just sort of lost the definition of what this country meant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you say government of the people, by the people, and for the people, I'll give you a good example of that. When I filed to run for office, my position is I'm running for that office and I'm dealing with the issues right then. I got a resume, okay? But at the county, they had not actually stood up at the beginning of the meeting, if you will, at the county, with a pledge of allegiance to the flag for 20 years. And I went up in there and I just started saying, well, why don't we just start doing the 3 minutes, right? I said, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. You know how much? No, they didn't say anything to me, naturally. Even I'd stand up and I'd say, okay, fine, I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. But then I'd turn around and I'd look at them, see? and they stand up. And then if people don't stand up, I just look at them some more. And then I'll say, well, you mind, standing up?
Yeah.
And they see me, and they say, well, I think this
It's
guy.
just a respect issue. I mean, we're Americans,
Well, I maintain it because I fought for this situation.
You bet you.
We don't have anything like this in the world.
Yeah.
This country, in many ways. So I mean, that shows you the kind of air we're living in at this point in time. That's why That's why I'm wanting to do this show, because we got to fight for it now. I mean, we're kind of like doing the same thing, cleaning the swamp.
Well, it's being undermined from within, and I think a lot of politicians are compromised.
Yes.
And the reason that it goes on and on is because they're so good at accusing Americans of being racist or xenophobe. If we want to just stop illegal trespass, that I think most people are just silenced.
Right. What about those? What about naming those people? Like, for instance, when did it start? Who filed it? I know there was a Hispanic name that was on this whole. Was it the guy was in office
in Oregon?
Yeah. Who started this thing?
Oh, our petition?
Yeah.
Sal Escobar.
No, not that. No.
No?
I'm talking about the one the sanctuary state thing. That goes back.
Oh, the original law was passed under Atiyeh.
87.
It was Atiyeh was governor when that was passed. It was actually under a Republican.
But it was just an anti-profiling.
Yeah, it was it wasn't the same. It has morphed into this.
So who took it from there? I mean, we need names, Bruce. I mean,
actually, I mean, it really stems. I mean, this most recent one really stems from the executive order.
The executive order
that Kate Brown signed. It's dated February 2017, and it lists the law, but it muddies the water so bad. And she said, we're not going to allow any money from the state of Oregon to be used to actually call immigration, to enforce our immigration policy. And that to me, and so even though this law has these exceptions, that executive order muddies the waters to the point where it's changed into this sanctuary state law. So she's the one that did it, and it was in response to Trump getting elected president because of his strong stand on building the wall and securing our borders. And so this governor is responsible for a lot of things in this state that are going the wrong direction, and she needs to go.
Well, that's why we got you here.
Absolutely.
We want you to bring some of this stuff up while we're in the position to be able to talk about it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep. And the thing is, I'm not afraid to take a position on issues. So many times there's politicians, my dad used to say to me, Bruce, trying to get a politician to actually figure out where he is on a position is trying to like stick an ant with a pin, because they just keep moving on you. You can't, and he said, if you ever run for office, take a position. I mean, whatever you believe, tell people what you believe. And I think Trump has shown us that that's the way we should be running our country, is you should know exactly what you're voting for and when you get, and that's what you get with our campaign. We are focused on the issues, and this is one of the issues that we're going to use in our campaign. We're going to build a contract with Oregon for the House and the Senate and this governor race to run after we get through this primary that has this as a part of that, that says, you know what? This is a part of our contract with Oregon. House, Senate members, county commissioners, whoever's running in this race as Republicans, we need a common voice on this to say, so people know where we're at as a party. Right. So.
But like I say, we're on the right track because, in all due respect, people are frustrated with politicians. And my definition of a politician is that this person lacks the resume for the issue that they got elected on.
Usually they don't know the points.
That's what I'm saying.
You have to go tell them what's the problem.
Exactly.
A lot of people, though, are looking to Oregon to help solve the problem because we were the first one to get these driver's cards turned off with this referendum. But also now, Orange County, California, and some other municipalities in California.
People just frustrated.
Yes, they're too frustrated to even pay attention to that law they have down there. And so it's like, who says it? Glenn Beck. Courage is contagious. And so I think other people are looking to Oregon as a bellwether.
And again, like I said, I'm again, because we are butt to Mexico. I like to go to Mexico. I mean, I go out and do my little time over there in the water, whatever. But the bottom line is that they are butting us, and a lot of the Mexicans who are with this idea of illegal status aspect of it, they want to know too. They want to know exactly what they need to do. You see, and we need to, again, that's why I'm saying this is so important. They need to know that they have broken the law. They're being told that you haven't broken the law.
Well, all you have to do is say the right words and you're a refugee.
Yes.
You know, that's one of those tricks they use to go around the Border Patrol. And during the Obama administration, that's all you had to do, is basically be of the correct age and say, I have reason to believe that I'm going to be in physical danger if I stay in my country.
Right.
And they just let you go.
Right. But
I
now,
had to go through more just to get back from Canada recently.
Oh, yes, very much so. But see, but now it's safety. The safety of the people now. People are really concerned about their safety.
Yes,
Yeah, well,
that's the
They
key.
should
thank
be.
you
That's
for
what this
bringing
is
that
about.
up. See,
Safety.
see all these sheets of paper?
Yes.
These are Oregonians who've been killed, either by drunk driving or by outright murder by illegal aliens. And these are just locals. And one of them I know, this Kay Blazer, went to my church. And she was broadsided by a drunk driving illegal alien in Oregon City. And it's happening all the time. And when I've brought this up to journalists, you know, they've all got kind of a bias, and they say, well, accidents can happen anywhere. Tragedies can happen anywhere. And I said, yeah, but these would not have happened if our government did its job. And you know what they do? They change the subject. Because there's no answer for that, not a rational one.
Right. Well, it's like anything else now. It's not as long as it's not in my front yard, I'm cool. That's an
kind of
attitude that
it.
we have. Really.
Well, the point is, if you ignore this process, it's going to be in your front yard.
Oh yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that's what's happening
sooner
now.
or later.
Well, that's why we discuss it. And folks, let's be real here. I mean, it's one thing about this country is freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to respect your rights. You respect my right. You got to respect everybody's right that's sitting around here. And the bottom line is that the only reason there's a problem with this other issue aspect of it. I don't see people that are so pro for it, pro wanting to quote keep the sanctuary city, and say when I asked the question about, well, okay, will you take one home with you?
Oh, right.
Will you pay the bill? Will you do this? If you break the law, will you go on and suffer the consequences? Maybe lose your home and lose everything you got trying to defend that person. So I'm just saying, I'm saying it right out again.
That would be
if
the
someone
talking
would say,
point.
fine, hey, look here, take one home with you. I think that would be a heck of a deal towards solving
A
this problem.
criminal. Take
No, well,
a criminal illegal alien home with you, because those are the ones that are the issue.
First ones. So the ones who
that we need to get rid of.
The one who yells the loudest about we need to keep this. I want you to think about public safety first.
Yeah.
Those are the ones we need to really. They really need to be given some opportunities, you know, to help them out.
Yeah, and that is another rationale. They're just trying to better their lives.
Yeah.
Although we don't get to break the law to do that.
That's right.
And what's another one? They contribute so much because they work really hard. Well, you know, even violent criminals often have a day job. So what? You know, what they're costing everyone far outweighs what they're contributing, and honestly, a lot of people are waiting in line to contribute. They're waiting in line legally to get here and contribute.
Costing me money, taxpayers, you know. Bruce and I were having a nice discussion. Something about this guy making $1 million off of PERS. That's another subject matter, Bruce.
Yes, it is.
That's another subject matter. You know how I feel about that part. But anyway, with the bottom line, it's another interesting piece that we. And I noticed he brought a guest with him today, and he was telling me that I remember the Bundy thing. We did some stuff on Bundy. Remember that one? And we basically, I would love to have been able to introduce him, but the fact of the matter is, this thing has kind of gotten to the point now that the government made some mistakes, some pretty big mistakes.
They did make.
And now they got to try to get these folks' lives back, give them an opportunity to get their lives back together.
Absolutely.
And maybe next time you're here, maybe if he's around, I would like to bring him on and share his thoughts about how he felt about that.
That sounds
good. Okay, can we do that?
Sounds good.
Come on and stick your head in here. I got about 2 or 3 minutes anyway. I want to introduce you to this gentleman here. Come on this side over here. A little bit. Right here. There we go. You can just talk. Yeah, you can just talk a little bit about it. Now you're out now. Everything. Real briefly, we got about 2 minutes.
I got released to a homeless shelter.
Okay.
I got found guilty by a jury right after the election. Some people says, well, how did you get found guilty? I says, well, Trump won the election and Portland was mad, and I think they took it out on me.
Okay.
But you know, that's neither here nor there. It was different lawyers and it was a different case. But I served my time. My name's Jason Patrick.
Okay.
And so I served my time. And
how much time did you serve?
I had a 21-month sentence. I got about 96 days of good time off of that. And then I just want to go home. I have a family in Washington. I have family in Georgia. I can live in either place, but I wasn't released to go to either of those places. I'm actually mandated to stay in the state of Oregon for different reasons. So you know, I'm here and I'm helping out Bruce and doing what I can. And
well, welcome back. I mean, like I say, as when we say, whatever happened, you're back now, and you're trying to get your life back together and get your family. And we want to make sure that we want to apologize as much as we possibly can, and do whatever's necessary to help you get back in the real world. Okay.
That's right.
All right, my friend. Welcome back, Patrick.
All right, thank you.
It's a pleasure, my brother.
Enough is enough. It's time for Bruce Cuff.
Yeah, I heard that. Well, he knocks on the doors. He knows what's going on there. That's why he's sitting there. You got me?
Yeah.
And so we got about a minute. Yeah, about a minute.
Can I plug where people can
Go
go
on.
to?
Yeah, get that.
Okay, if you go to OregonSanctuaries.org, maybe your guy in
go on. Yeah, just
you can actually download a single line signature sheet, sign it, and send it in, and get this on the ballot.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay, do it one more time.
He could look at that card. StopOregonSanctuaries.org, I think it is. If it's not .org, it's .com.
Okay.
And download a single signature sheet, sign it, and send it in. You'd really help us.
And you can also find that link on timeforcuff.org.
Time for Cuff. You can find that?
Yeah, cuff.org. I've got a link to that, to their website on there, and you can get that single signature sheet on so if you want to see what we're doing, go on there, and this is one of the issues that we talk about on our website.
That's good. Well, Bruce, you're doing a good job.
Thank you, Bruce.
You are knocking on them doors.
Absolutely.
That's very important, and we're bringing folks from around this city, if you will, around this area. We're bringing folks over here now, and that's through you.
And we just about hit every barbershop in the Tri-County area, and we're working on more next week.
I'll give you some flyers. Okay. Well, folks, this has been I think it's been very educational, and that's the whole business of this business here, is to educate and inform. And I'm welcoming anyone who happens to be Mexican American, legit, that wants to talk about this subject. I mean, just give your views. That's what we're all about. And then we'll have the opportunity for folks to see this, because it's all about us. That's what it's all about. Back to what you believe in, okay? Take care. Have a good one. See you next week. Hey folks, I'm Bruce Broussard, and as you might know, I'm running to be your next county commissioner. But I will continue to host our Oregon Voters Digest, and will likely share my views on important issues here. And since this is going to be a very important election year for everyone, I'm opening this platform for other political candidates to share their views too. So, if whether you're also running for Multnomah County Commissioner, or if you are going to be on the ballot in any other position in our viewing area, you are welcome to come on this show and tell us what you are all about. This is an open invitation to anyone running for any office in the Portland area. We broadcast our show live every Sunday afternoon here in Northeast Portland, and would love to share the stage with you. If you're interested, send us an email at ovdguests@gmail.com. The email should be displayed on your screen now. So, come on down, write me an email, and tell me who you are, what position you're running for, and maybe a little about yourself. Again, our email is ovdguests@gmail.com. Even if you're not running for office, be sure to stay tuned over the next several months. You're going to want to know how your candidates stand on the issues and how they plan to represent you. Have a great week, folks. Everybody, I love you. Take care.